Well, it's the Christmas season, so it should come as no surprise to you to see nativity scenes out in front of churches and schoolyards all across the nation. Now, if the nativity scene is done correctly, there should not be a baby Christ in that manger until Christmas Day, because it is technically still the anticipatory season of Advent. We are awaiting the birth of Christ, just like we are awaiting who will be in our championship round in our fantasy football league. Now, these semifinal matchups are going to show us who will be in the championship, just like the birth of Christ is going to show us the importance of humility, of service, of sacrifice. We're going to break all that down this week on a Christmas edition of Chris's Picks.
He's got the picks, the show's a kick, the guests are all a trip. So don't delay, grab your chair and stay, because it's time for Chris's Picks.
Well, my cup's filled with eggnog and we're ready to go. Welcome to a Christmas edition of Chris's Picks. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different because it's just me. There's no guest pickers, and we have a little bit to recap on before we get to this week's semifinal matchups. So first, the recap. And I didn't do a proper Christmas bow or wrapping paper on my picks with William from 2 episodes ago, 5 weeks ago, but 2 episodes ago. I went 4-2, William went 5-1, and then the last episode, the audience, you guys saw, was my episode with Blake. I went 3-3, and Blake went 4-2, which means the grand total heading into championship weekend, I sit at 41-25, and the guest pickers sit at 50-16.
And a bah humbug to you.
Now let's talk about the naughty and nice list. In fact, let's not even talk about the naughty list. That's everyone who didn't make the playoffs. Irrelevant for this episode. The nice list. Dan got the 1 seed and a bye. Dave got the 2 seed and the other bye. William was the 3 seed, Logan was the 4 seed, Harry was the 5 seed, and rounding us out was Andrew at the 6 seed. So that's the nice list for the Cho Dynasty in the year of 2025. You will note 2 names that are not on the list: Jack LaForge, naughty; Daniel Augustin, naughty. So this means for the first time in league history, we will have a new champion in the Cho Dynasty. Daniel won the first 2 seasons, Jack won the next 2 seasons, but there will be a new name stitched in the coveted plaid jacket this season. We're eager to find out who it's going to be. But first, let's talk about round 1 of the playoffs. So, Harry defeated Logan 147-113, and this was a really interesting game to follow. Logan had a couple of good games from Bijan Robinson and Jamison Williams, but it just wasn't enough. The story in this one was Harry, and more specifically, the story was Trevor Lawrence, who threw for 330 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Jets. It's a Christmas miracle. He rushed for an additional touchdown, giving him 44 fantasy points, which was nearly 30% of Harry's entire production for that weekend. Good. So for Harry, the grift continues. I feel like I'm watching a Bernie Madoff scene play out right before our eyes. Harry reminds me of Frosty the Snowman. He's just a snowman. He's just frozen ice. But when he puts the top hat on, he becomes a mythical creature. And no one's been able to knock the top hat off just yet. We'll see if there's anyone who can stand up to that task. Congrats to Logan. Your first playoff appearance in franchise history. You've been building, Logan. You had the patience to get here. So, pat yourself on the back, man. We don't give out participation trophies, but you deserve a little bit of congratulations here, because this has been a long time coming for you. Let's talk about the next game. Gritty and the Jets versus Dixieland Dreamin'. Andrew was defeated 104-172. Now, notice the passive voice. Andrew was defeated, not active voice. William doesn't get active voice. This game reminded me of that sad little Christmas tree in the Charlie Brown Christmas movie.
I've killed it.
Now, that tree went on to become, the star of the show and an allegory for the true meaning of Christmas. But just from a pathetic standpoint, from the appearance, the aesthetic, the pathetic appearance of the tree. That's what this game reminded me of. Drew, you really should watch the movie. I know it's not a Marvel movie, so you probably haven't seen it, but you should really give that movie a watch this year. Justin Jefferson's fall off needs to be studied, folks. What is going on? I think I know what's going on. J.J. McCarthy, for whatever reason, has zero chemistry with him. Can't get the guy the ball. This changes not only the dynamics of the Vikings offense, but it changes the landscape of fantasy football. I mean, if Justin Jefferson is not going to be a top 10 receiver because his quarterback can't get him the ball, I don't know what's going to happen. Jefferson only scored 3 points for Drew. Now, let's be honest. Let's call a snowflake here. It wouldn't have mattered. Justin Jefferson could have scored 50 points. He could have scored 69 points. Actually, no, he couldn't have scored 69 points. But you get my drift. He could have had an all-time game, and it still wouldn't have mattered because Williams' 172.8 points is the fourth most points in league history. Now, how great is that? I mean, the guy didn't even podium. Okay, I can't even give the guy a bronze medal. He's fourth. He's fourth on the list. Still impressive, though, and very dangerous moving forward. So we'll see what happens. Now, talking about moving forward, let's talk about the semifinal games. So, first one up, Chasing More Pickmas versus Team Average Ho. Now, we have the benefit of hindsight in this one, folks, because Puka Nacua left a 40-point performance for Dan underneath the Christmas tree.
He brought back their snoof and their tringlers and fuzzles, brought back their pantukas, their dafflers and wuzzles.
Last night was the Thursday Night Football game, and Puka Nacua had this great performance. And now Dan is projected to beat Harry 146 to 109 points. And I don't know if that specific projection will hold, but I do think the essence of the projection will hold. I do think Dan beats Harry in this one. Jamar Chase has his partner in crime back, Joe Burrow. Jawan Jennings has scored at least one touchdown for Dan in the flex position in his last 3 games. And I think Dan's running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, is going to play really inspired football. Detroit is playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is coming to Detroit, so they will be playing indoors. Both teams have their postseason lives on the line here. Both teams are in the hunt and on the bubble for the NFL postseason. Now, I'm no NFL prognosticator, but I do think that matters because I do think there's going to be plenty of offense to be had in this game. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the beneficiary of that offense. If I were going to call an upset here, what would have to happen? I think it would have to be some combination of Trevor Lawrence replicating his over 40-point performance last week, which I don't think is going to happen. Maybe Christian McCaffrey is going to run all over the Indianapolis defense, which could happen because Indianapolis is dealing with some issues at quarterback. Daniel Jones tore his ACL. They've got Phillip Rivers, old man Phillip Rivers, coming back, found the fountain of youth to play football again. So if this game gets out of hand, maybe they hand the ball off to CMC a bunch of times. I don't know. I think even if that does happen, I'm really not entirely sure Harry can get it done. In fact, my narrative all season has been he's a fraud. I just called this guy Frosty the Snowman without the top hat. I think I've got to go chasing more Pickmas here, so I think Dan is going to be in the championship round. Now, game of the week, without further ado, Dixieland Dreamin' versus the Mahomies. Now, this is 2 of our biggest brands in the league. Whether you love them or hate them, a lot of people seem to love Dave. We won't talk about William. Whether you love these 2 teams or hate these 2 teams, these are our 2 big brands vying for a chance for the championship. You gotta love this. This is what football is all about. This is what fantasy football is all about. Now, William had to be feeling pretty decently about his odds last night when Jackson Smith-Njigba was being held to a pretty pedestrian game for Jackson Smith-Njigba standards. That was until Jackson Smith-Njigba caught a touchdown pass in overtime. It was the second to last. It was the penultimate offensive play of the game. And so the sleeper projections totally shifted after that. We've got dead heat right now. Sleeper's got this game at dead heat between William and David. It's a coin flip. Now, important to note, the Mahomies will be without their namesake. They will be without Patrick Mahomes, who tore his ACL, so he's out for the rest of the season. So David's going to have to start Jordan Love, who will have already played by the time this episode airs because he plays on Saturday. a really interesting dynamic here that I want to direct your attention to. A really interesting dynamic. Dave has A.J. Brown, and he also has Devonta Smith, who are Philadelphia Eagles wide receivers. Now, William has the quarterback that will be throwing to them. William has Jalen Hurts. So this is something to keep an eye on, because whenever you have a situation where the opposing quarterback is throwing to opposing receivers who are on the same team but on different fantasy teams, the quarterback usually comes away with scoring more points than the individual receivers. But it makes a difference because his total point advantage that he gives William is going to be lessened because he's going to be sharing in points from yardage and touchdown with two of Dave's receivers. Something to keep an eye on there. I think Cortland Sutton, I think Brian Thomas are trending up. I think William is really pleased with what's going on with his wide receivers right now. And I think Emeka Egbuka and Travis Kelce, I think they're trending down. Travis Kelce doesn't have his quarterback throwing to him anymore, okay? Completely different situation in Kansas City. Dave can't start his other tight end, Mark Andrews, because let's just face it, he's unstartable right now. In this spot, in this specific spot, he might start on my roster. He's not going to start on Dave's roster, not in the semifinal round. So I think Dave's just going to have to ride out Travis Kelce on this one. I'm going to pick Dave. I'm going to pick Dave for 3 reasons. I'm going to pick Dave for 4 reasons, and I'll give them to you right now. The first reason, Josh Jacobs for William, running back for William, questionable. In fact, William's in a bit of a difficult position because he's a game-time decision. So does William start David Montgomery in his place? I don't know. Does he risk it with Josh Jacobs? Now, I think even if Josh Jacobs plays, it's a knee/ankle injury. So I'm not really sure what that snap share is going to be. I'm not sure what his production is going to be even if he does play. Second reason, I just talked about it. Jalen Hurts is going to have to score with his feet to avoid giving Dave any point share in this one. Jalen Hurts has not scored a touchdown, a rushing touchdown, I should say, since week 12. I'm not sure that's going to work, William. I'm not sure that's going to work. Third reason, Chris Olave has been a serious X factor in fantasy football since the emergence of Tyler Shuck, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. I'm sure Dave has got to be feeling pretty good about the Chris Olave stock because of Tyler Shuck's emergence. The fourth reason, perhaps the most important reason, Dave's story reminds me of the very first Christmas. You see, for thousands of years, humans were waiting for the Messiah. They were waiting for the birth of their Savior. And we Christians today go through that waiting period called Advent. You know, it's a 4-week period before Christmas to sort of emulate that. Now, 4 weeks, 4 Advent candles, 4 seasons of Cho Dynasty football that Dave has been waiting. He's been knocking on the door for 4 seasons. Well, now Dave's Advent wreath is lit up. All 4 candles are lit, and now is the time. Now is the time for the payoff. Now, just like the early humans, Dave was probably wondering, what's going on here? What's the plan? You see, humans waited thousands of years for God to send a Savior. And the early humans were probably thinking, when's it going to happen? They didn't understand the plan. Dave probably had some internal doubts. He was doing everything right. He was building his team the right way. He built a great roster. Just couldn't get over the finish line. He was probably thinking to himself, why the wait? What is the plan? But the thing about God's plan is it's like a beautiful tapestry. And the tragedy of being human is that we only see the tapestry from the backside. We see all the worn out threads and the muddied colors. And the real beauty of the tapestry could only be revealed if we saw it from the other side, the way God sees it. And so we probably often wonder what the plan is, but there is a plan. And I think the plan is this time for Dave to make the championship round. Now, The fifth reason is, all the Christmas mumbo jumbo that I just went through. Sure, I don't want William to make the championship game. I think it would be quite funny if he missed it. So, funny enough, that is another reason I'm picking Dave. But, it is what it is. This is an entertainment. This is the entertainment business, folks. This is a show. So, we'll see who wins. I'm sure whoever makes it will be deserving of the two. Both of these teams do deserve it. Williams built a great team. David's built a great team. They've both been knocking on the door. I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. I'm excited to see how Dan and Harry's game plays out. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe the underdog story for Harry is not done yet. That's it for Chris's picks, folks. We will see you with a whole cohort of guest pickers next week, hopefully. And we wish you a very Merry Christmas. We wish you and your family a very safe and Merry Christmas. Remember the reason for the season. A Savior was born in Bethlehem. So thankful for that. And same time, same channel. We'll see you next week.
Nowhere